Our first speaker this morning will be John Sutherland. John, for some of us, doesn't need an introduction. He's been coming to our club for a long time, and he is a candidate for Senate District 1. Please join me in welcoming John Sutherland. Thank you.
My name is John Sutherland. I'm a candidate for State Senate, District 1. You each should have one of these little cards. If you don't have, raise your hand, please. Okay, and you should have a pencil. There'll be a test. Make sure you have a pencil. If you need a pencil, raise your hand, and we'll see that you get one. This is the 33rd day of our campaign. The first thing we did was choose a color. The color of our campaign is this springtime green. It's the color of new growth. It's the color of life. It's the color of change. We need to change. The symbol of our campaign is this honeybee. This is a worker bee. It's not a queen bee. It's not a drone. We have plenty of those already in elected officials, as elected officials. This is a worker bee. One of the things that a worker bee does is communicate. And that's what we're here today to do. We'd like to run a grassroots campaign, but at this point, it's more like a grass seed campaign. So as we sow these seeds this morning, we hope they'll take root and we can become a grassroots campaign. Our theme is be nice. We want to raise the bar. You don't have to call your opponent dirty names. You don't have to, you can disagree with someone and still be respectful and still be kind and still be understanding. So be good, be nice. That's our thing. All right, you see John for Senate up there. John for Senate at AOL.com is our email address. We want to hear from you. Our phone number is on here. Call us. We'd like to hear from you. On the back of your card, turn it over, you should see 2, 40, and 80, followed by some spaces. One of the things you should be is informed. We think if we can inform the voters, we'll see a change. Now, I have written up here on this green board what's on the back of your card. So take your pencil and we'll fill it out. Beside the 2, you should see 5 spaces. In those spaces, write cents, C-E-N-T-S. This stands for the 2 cents gas tax. The 2 cents temporary gas tax that the voters in Lauderdale County and Colbert County voted on in 2002. It was a temporary gas tax which would expire when the bonds that were used to pay for the Marriott and the RSA golf courses was paid off. That occurred in 2018. The gas tax expired in Colbert County. It was extended in Lauderdale County without the approval of the voters by Senator Melson, Representative Greer, and Representative Pettis. Let me repeat. It was extended without voter approval. We thought that since it didn't have voter approval, it was no longer a local tax. It was a state tax. So we filed suit against the Ag Board, saying that this was a misuse of state gas tax money. Judge Powell never held a hearing. He ruled that it was a local tax because it was a change in the tax law that we had voted on in 2002. What they did was draw a line through "will expire" and wrote in "will be extended" for 40 years. That's the 40, right in years. It's still a temporary gas tax. It just lasts till 2060. Still a temporary gas tax, 2060. So people say, it's just 2 cents. It's just 2 cents. Well, it's 2 cents on 50 million gallons of gas a year. So it is a tax of $1 million a year that was not approved by the voters. That will be paid for the next 40 years. So that's 40 followed by, help me out now, a comma, 3 zeros, another comma, 3 zeros, a decimal place, and then a 0, and put a 2 there. That's that 2 cents. Now, let's look at how far it is from that 2 cents to that dollar sign. In the first place to the right of the decimal, that would be 2 dimes, 20 cents. In the first place to the left of the decimal, that would be $2. 2 places over, $20. 3 places over, $200. Then a comma. The next place, $2,000. I could buy a car for $2,000. I drive old clothes car. Move it over one more place. $20,000. You buy a bass boat, not a fancy bass boat, but you buy a bass boat for $20,000. You can send a child to college for $20,000. Let's move it one more place. $200,000. You can buy a house in my neighborhood for $200,000. $200,000. Then we come to a comma. The space left of that comma is $2 million. A lot of people don't make $2 million in their entire life. Work their whole life. Not make $2 million. $2 million is about how much my opponent will raise in campaign funds for his 8 years in office. For a $50,000 a year job. Move it one more place. $20 million. Now double it. $40 million. And that's how much the 2 cent gas tax will raise in the next 40 years. $40 million. Now that money is to go to pay the interest on $40 million of bonds that were issued without voter approval for the Ag Center to build an Ag Event Center without voter approval. For your children and your grandchildren to pay for. Would you build something and have your children and grandchildren sign the mortgage to pay it off in the next 40 years? Well, of course you would. But that's what they have done. These elected officials, without voter approval, are spending $40 million in principal plus $40 million in interest, $80 million of Lauderdale County money without voter approval. Now, you know how to fill in the blanks, comma, 0, 0, 0, comma, 0, 0, 0, decimal place, 0, 2. $80 million. I have two more handouts for you. Our busy bees, Dr. Morris and my wife, Carol Nell, will pass them out to you. They're two pieces of paper. One is a copy of the frontispiece of the 2019 audit by the state auditor group of the Ag Board finances. 2019 is the latest information that's available. On the back of that, you will see the principal payments and the interest payments for the next 40 years. Now, when I came up with these numbers, I was guesstimating. But the numbers on this piece of paper are the real number. The gas tax raised in 2019, $917,000. So my $1 million was off a little bit. The total amount of repayment for principal and interest in 40 years is not 80 million like I showed. It's 79 million something. So this is close enough for talking point. This is our first campaign speech. We would welcome your comments and criticisms, suggestions. Our campaign is still in its infancy. We're 33 days old today. So any help you would offer us, we would appreciate it. Now, we've got just a couple of minutes for questions. Yes, ma'am.
Would you be willing to speak to the additional money that's going into the Ag Center, in addition to the tax money? The money going into the Ag Center, in addition to this money?
What I speak about,
Yeah, would you tell us
what I speak about, the additional money that's going to the Ag Center. Oh, yeah. To my knowledge, the Ag Center has received a $5 million grant from the governor to be used for the manpower development, what's it called? Workforce development. They've also requested a $5 million from the CETA board to be used for the workforce development. And to my knowledge, that's the only money that they have received in addition. But I don't know. You don't get much information from them. The first Ag board meeting I went to, I learned that no questions are allowed. You know, you have a board of 7 board members, 5 of the 7 are elected officials, spending $80 million of public Lauderdale County money. There's no matching. Usually when you do a big capital project like this, you get matching funds. You put in 20% local money and you get 80% federal money. No, this is 100% local money. The other thing we should talk about is they spent $10 million and then found out they didn't have sewer. How could you spend $10 million on a piece of property, developing it to build a 10,000 seat arena or multi-purpose center and not have sewer? So you're going to have 4,000 porta potty? How big a septic tank would you need for 10,000? 10,000 gallons, 8,000 gallons, 500,000. You got 100 horses out there. You don't have to clean up after. So another question? Yes, sir.
John, it's like put the cart before the horse.
Putting the cart before the horse. My father would have a better term. One of the things when I would make a terrible mistake, he'd say, "How stupid can you be?" You can be pretty stupid, but most of the time you learn. The other thing we should mention is the term limits. I can guarantee that I will not be more than a 2-term senator. That's a joke. Come on.
At least it's not a lie.
One more quick question. Yes, sir.
Thoughts on HB 315?
What are my thoughts on
House Bill 315?
House Bill 315?
Or about 351.
351, which is
That's where
the in lieu of tax money. Well, you'll see on one of these handouts, the Ag Board has said that they have dedicated $1.2 million a year for the next 40 years of the in lieu of tax money to pay off their bonds. And you'll see on there that what they got in 2019 was not 1.2 million, but 1.39 something million. And my understanding is for the last 2 years, they've gotten all of the in lieu of tax money. And what Senator Greer is proposing is that now become the law, that the Ag Board would receive all of the in lieu of tax money without voter approval.
And what was that supposed to be used for? The inland tax money originally was supposed to be used for something.
I'm sorry, I'm mostly deaf and I don't have a hearing aid on. Oh, originally the in lieu of tax money in Cobbett County, it goes to the volunteer fire departments, to the senior centers, to the schools. You know, they're not building an ag center with it over there. All right, thank you very much. Oh, I was going to say one more thing. In my youth, in my much younger days, I was a cheerleader, and so I'd like to end with a cheer. I'm going to say 2, and you're going to say cents. 2 cents. 2 cents. 40 years. 40 years. 40 million. 40 million. 40 million. 80 million. 80 million. B for John. B for John. And be quiet. Be quiet.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate you.